Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm back after a few days off, and if you're wondering why I was off, it's because I've been doing a presentation on how electrons are arranged in the atom, and let's just say it's even more complicated than it sounds. So it's taken me ages to do it. Anyway, it's out the way now, so I'm going to go back to doing a little bit of Edane. And today, it's a subscribers game. I don't know if I've just said that or not. Anyway, it's a subscribers game, and the person who sent it to me is Geeraz. And I do believe I played against him the other day, and this game was before he played against me, and he said that actually Imladris is one of his favourite factions, and one of his best factions. So I'll be focusing mainly on him throughout this match, and as I'm saying that, he's gone for two very early inside economy buildings, which, as I mentioned in my first ever Imladris video, Imladris really is the only faction, in my opinion, who can do reasonably well with this kind of strategy. Well, I mean, anybody can do well with this strategy, but what I should say is that Imladris is one of the factions where it's more difficult to counter this type of strategy if you're playing against them. Anyway, as we see, his opponent is Angmar, and actually that is really important here. This little early engagement, and as we see, it's Stormcrow who's his enemy, and down goes Drauglin very early on in the game. Now that is actually huge for this game, and especially in this matchup. What we saw there was Stormcrow right off the bat bought Drauglin, and as we see, he's banging him back here. He bought Drauglin, and he turned him into the wolf form, and he brought him over to this farm. Now, the idea behind that is to grab a wolf den, or at least that's why I do that, and I often do that with Angmar, get Drauglin over here and try and steal some of these farms. If you get a wolf den here, obviously you can start pumping out wolves from there, and wolves against Imladris are so devastating, and as well as that, if he had got that wolf pit there, Geeraz wouldn't have been able to capture this farm, so he would have been very far behind in his development. Now, if you can start pumping out wolves against Imladris, you can just do huge damage, because the wolves are faster than the Imladris units. And as I've said so many times, it's so important when you're playing Imladris to keep your units alive. And you can't run from something that's faster than you, and the wolves are just way faster than the Imladris troops. So if you ever find an Imladris troop that is by themselves, as in your enemy has split his Imladris troops, and you've got a bunch of wolves, you can simply single them out, surround them with wolves, and just eat them, basically. And that's it. GG for those swordsmen, if that ever happens to the Imladris player. So let's have a look at what Stormcrow is doing. Over here, he's gone for his orc camp. So it looks like he's going to be utilising the orc spam. And indeed, it seems that that is the exact strategy that he's been going for so far. So yes, the orc camps boost the damage of the orcs for Angmar. You can also get the hillman camps, which boost the damage of the hillman. The hillman can get either pikes or axe throwers. So here we are. Let's have another look at what the Imladris player is doing here. So yes, another thing I'd like to draw your attention to is he's gone for this additional worker very early on in this game, on this farm. Now, if I was him, I'd be using Aerostar on that, and I'm sure that's what he's doing it for. This is just like economy play in general. He hasn't creeped his troll over here, look. It looks like he's going to try and steal this one. And what's going to happen here? Now, if these orcs surround, as it looks like he's attempting to do, and he's done reasonably well. This guy isn't surrounded, but a lot of the other guys are. Now, that's devastating for Imladris troops when they get surrounded in that way, because they're getting flank damage. However, he managed to level up just there, so that's really going to help them survive in this situation. So you see that they're surrounded, but they're just about managing to survive because they've got to level 2. The other thing about when you're fighting against Angmar is that it's very likely that your Thors are going to die, like, as we see those two go down there, and there goes the entire battalion. Now, in the meantime, he's gone for these axe throwers, so they were dealing a lot of damage to the troops, and it seems as if that level 2 battalion has actually been killed now. They've only got one battalion now, and it's on level 1. So here we see Gildor being so effective against the Thrallmasters as he's targeting down this axe thrower. However, the perfect counter to that is to use Drauglin, and as we see here, Drauglin is attacking Gildor, and oh no, Gildor! Run, Gildor! Look at his health. It's on 0 health. And Drauglin is chasing him down. How are these guys doing? So it looks like he sent 2 battalions in. He's managed to kill all of his orcs and one of his battalions of axe throwers. And this guy managed to survive. So that's quite an even trade, really. Possibly in favour of Imladris. But it's not going to be in favour of Imladris if Gildor gets killed by Drauglin. Run, Gildor! Run! Oh, shit. Drauglin going on the hunt here against Gildor. No, don't stop, you noob! Run, Gildor, run! An epic hunt of from Drauglin there against Gildor. It looks like Gildor's going to manage to survive. But oh my goodness, Drauglin has been turned into the wolf form. And he should be able to chase down Gildor here. But a good bit of micro is pulling Gildor behind his troops. And now Drauglin's going to suffer some damage from the troops. And in fact, he attacked the troops. And look at this. Drauglin goes down and Gildor manages to survive in epic fashion. And you guys thought Gildor sucked. I ask you. He survived an epic fight against Drauglin with the help of 5 highly trained Imladris units. But that's by the by. So yes, a nice little bit of micro there, an attack. And I did notice, but failed to mention, that the Angmar player actually used the debuff that Angmar get, the Dark Obelisk. So that was going to significantly increase the damage that was being taken to the swordsman, because it reduces your enemy's armor when you put that down. So that's possibly the reason why that level 2 battalion died. So, in exchange for that, I mean, he lost 1 battalion, but he killed 3 or 4 battalions of orcs. And I think possibly an axe thrower as well was killed by Gildor, thanks to the thrall sniping. And he also lost his Drauglin, don't forget. So possibly, even though I've said many times that I really don't like losing units of Imladris in the early game, that was possibly a good exchange. Now, of course, it would have been even better if he managed to keep his level 2 unit alive at the same time. But you can't win everything. And look at this. Here's a little bit of a glitch from Drauglin where he starts to run in his... he starts to run at the same speed as his wolf form, even though he's in human form. You see here, he's going crazy fast. It's like he's on steroids. And if he was as fast as that when he was having that little duel with Gildor, Gildor surely would have died. So that's something maybe the team has to look at. I don't know if that's an unfixable bug or what. So yeah, let's have a look at... I was going to talk a little bit about economy, but then the micro battle kind of took over, and that was a much more interesting topic to cover. And there is a little bit of micro going on here, but really it's just Stormcrow here trying to steal the troll. But look at this, actually, talking about no micro going on. Look at that, he's run to behind the battalion there, and it's targeting the thrall. So that's exactly what thrall sniping was, and that was really excellent micro. I mean, I never really utilised that, and actually after seeing that I might utilise it more in my games, of actually using the speed boost on the largest troops, boost on the largest troops, to go and run behind the battalion and start targeting the thrall in that way. So with that little bit of micro, he had to retreat, and because he's had to retreat, he's actually going to grab all that money there. So that's bad for Stormcrow, that's really bad. And really, that's where, if you steal your enemy's steal your enemy's troll, or at least attempt to steal your enemy's troll, really those little troll battles are so much more important when both enemies are going for it. Like, if you remember some of the games I played with Dimitri, I often just let him take the troll, and I go and get advantages elsewhere on the field. But when there's those troll battles, really who gets the money from the troll is so much more important there. Because you're deciding to go and steal your enemy's troll at the cost of not developing elsewhere on the map. So if you lose that battle, it's huge, but if you win it, it's huge. So it's a bit more of a risky thing to go and battle for the same areas of the map in that way. So yes, back to the economy finally. And look at this, he's pumping out Kharndun Bowmen. So it seems as if his economy isn't that great, because he's only got 1 inside farm here, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 outside farms. Whereas if we look at Imladris, because he went for the very early inside, and he got the double production on here, using Aristar as well to do that. And actually he's gone for some cavalry as well, or he will be going for them soon. That really, it seems like Imladris is ahead on economy here. Now, it looks like he's split off his pikes, which he's made, to try and creep this troll and try and steal the enemy's troll, as the enemy tried to steal his. Now, will he be successful in doing that? It seems as if these pikes are in quite a bit of trouble. Now, he's got the library, so he's got this military studies, so that's why he got the speed boost. And he also got this increased armor for his pikemen. Now, this increased armor is plus 70% armor, which is huge. However, it's 30% slower for the units as well, so they're much more vulnerable to being attacked. Yes, their armor is very high, but if they're isolated as they are here, they can very easily die, just because they're so slow, they can't really escape. That being said, a nice breeze of manway there, and a nice bit of micro to kill those archers. And that being said, a nice use of powers there from the Angmar player to summon in the hordes of Mount Graham. And they start to surround these troops. Now, these archers are still alive, and these archers do huge damage. Drauglin's also in the mix there, dealing some damage. And these pikes are on extremely low health, and actually all the swords are just dead, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all of Imladris is just destroyed. That being said, he's come in with some cavalry to try and destroy these archers, as it seems he will. And he probably should have put him on defensive there to try and increase their survivability a little longer. It seems that 2 tramples is enough to kill those archers. So yes, that's why the Orc spam is so good. The Orc summon, I should say, is so good. And Jarglin's in a little bit of trouble here again from this troll. It looks like he'll probably be able to survive, nevertheless. Yes, that's why they're so good. There's so many of them, and they're reasonably tanky, and they do reasonably high damage. And really, they can surround your troops incredibly well. And that's what lost the fight there for Imladris. So Imladris has lost a huge amount of troops. But that being said, he's still probably slightly ahead on economy. However, Angmar is catching up now because he's starting to have a lot more investment in these inside buildings. As we see here, the troll, because his troll pit has been destroyed, he's freed from the radius of the troll pit, and that's a feature of the creeps. That if you kill their buildings, you might see sometimes in your games that the wildmen come over. Once your enemy is destroyed, and look at this, he's got Arwen out, and one hit from Arwen destroys that troll that's been freed from its creep. Yes, if you destroy the creep building, the creeps can go all over the map, as we saw there with that troll. So yes, a huge loss to the infantry army of Imladris in that little bit of micro. However, because he's got such good economy, he's managed to get out this Linden Watchtower, and he's actually going to get out some Linden Guardians to try and counter the archer spam of Angmar in this position. And he's also gone for Arwen. And that being said, there goes Jarglin, and he's glitching out a little bit there. It's like he's doing a mine. Oh, there he goes. So yeah, another loss of Jarglin, and that is, I believe, the second time. It might even be the third time of losing Jarglin. So that's a lot of Jarglin losses in this match. And you want to watch out for your cavalry heroes when you're playing against pikes, which I almost nearly lost my Nazgul in my Mordor game. If you watch that, the live action game. So yes, you need to be really careful. As soon as you get a cavalry hero out and your enemy gets pikes, you have to be super careful, because if you lose a hero, that's so much money lost. So here I'll draw your attention to the fact that he's gone for heavy armor, and he's gone for that thanks to the upgraded forge works that he's got here. So that's going to increase the survivability of his cavalry, which is really an excellent thing for Imladris cavalry, because yes, they're excellent, but they're really not that tanky. They've got huge damage, especially flank damage. I think it's 3 times the amount of flank damage, which is huge. But as we've seen before, they can die quite easily, so they're a little bit of a glass cannon cavalry. And with that being said, let me just take a drink of my drink. And in every video, I'm drinking a different drink, it seems. Usually it's tea, sometimes it's coffee, sometimes it's beer if I recorded it on a Saturday night. Tonight, it is, or rather, this afternoon, it is Diet Coke. So I'm sure that is very fascinating to all my viewers, the type of drink that Goodfella drinks. So moving swiftly on from that point, and let's just have a look here. And who's winning in this position? Who do you think's winning in this position, viewer? I'm actually not that sure who's winning here. It looks reasonably even, and let's have a look at the economy. Now, I don't know why the Angmar player here, Stormcrow, has upgraded all these buildings. It would seem to me that because he's upgrading these buildings, he's going for some other structures. Indeed, he is here. He's gone for the Dark Iron Forge. So he must be saving this for something else. So that is something that I'd like to mention, and I've tried to mention earlier on in the game before a lot of cool stuff started happening, is the economy decisions from the players. It's quite different. The Angmar player decided to go for more of my kind of strategy, where he went for a barrack start right off the bat, and he started pumping out some troops. However, I don't think that strategy really worked out that well for him, because he didn't really take it that much to his enemy in terms of harassment. So if you're going to go for that strategy, you really want to try and harass your enemy. So your enemy goes for 2... this is like a prime example of the different styles of economy that you can go for. The Imladris player here went for the inside eco buildings. Now, they're 800 resources, whereas the Angmar player went for the 2 outside. They're 400 resources. So really a huge difference. But you need to use the resources that you save from going for the outside buildings for something else. In the case of the Angmar player, he should have spammed out a lot of troops to try and harass his enemy, so that he could destroy a lot of his buildings and gain an advantage in that way. And it seems he's gone for another forge there, so that's a bit of a strange decision. And actually he's gone for an early outpost here, which is also a strange decision in my opinion. I mean, it's not going to be a strange decision if he manages to hold on to it, but it's a little bit of a risky choice here, because he hasn't got that much of an army. So the position that he's in is debatable whether he can afford that in that position. So yes, if you're playing against someone who's gone for an eco start, you've decided not to go for an eco start, really you need to put the pressure on extremely quickly in the early game, because the longer you leave that enemy to stew with his inside eco building without dealing damage of your own, really the worse it gets for you. And really, that starts to prove the inside building as more effective than the outside building. Anyway, that's a little bit of a technical point that I haven't even decided whether it's the best thing to do or not. So let's get back to a bit more of micro, because here we see the Breeze of Manwë coming in and destroying a lot of these troops. And really, this outpost is looking vulnerable. So the Angmar players also rush for this outpost. Now that's an even worse decision in my opinion, because although it was a little bit risky for the Imladris player to go for that outpost, he was ahead on army, as we've seen. It's proven to be the case with a good bit of micro to further his advantage in army. So really, it was hugely risky, and yes, these orcs have come out, and the orcs are extremely powerful, but they're not that powerful. They're not going to be able to destroy an army like this Imladris one by themselves. However, that being said, he's starting to pump out some archery towers, and this, once again, and there goes Draughlin for the 4th or 5th time now in this match. Yes, this is exactly the point that I've been trying to make before, is that the outpost is so risky, but in this current patch, because the towers are so strong, it makes it so much more secure to go for these outposts if you rush towers as you do here. But it seems like it still is not going to pay off. Although look at the damage to the cavalry and the damage to the units. That really, and look at this cavalry unit here. Indeed, it goes down to the tower, and that's a cavalry, which is, how much does it cost? Just check here. 560. It's upgraded with heavy armor, so that's a huge monetary loss to suffer as the Imladris player when you're trying to kill this outpost. And really, there's no skill involved for the person who's rushed for the outpost. That being said, he did waste 500 and 1,200, so really that's a huge economic loss. And it turns out in this situation that despite the towers being very powerful, his position was so bad that it was a complete and utter mistake to go for that outpost, as I predicted. However, if he'd managed to keep his army alive a little bit longer, and he'd managed to defend his outpost a little bit better, and he'd managed to get up the Citadel Archer upgrade, as well as a couple towers, maybe it would have turned out differently, and maybe the outpost would have been a bit more secure. It hasn't turned out that way, and now, where it was before very difficult to determine who was in front, now I believe that Imladris is firmly in front, because he's gone for his outpost, which was a big risk, and it was a decision that could have been proved wrong by the Angmar player if he'd rushed to try and destroy it. Instead, the Angmar player went for his own outpost, and destroyed it. And so this decision to go for the outpost here has become so much better because of that mistake. I hope I made that clear. In that the Angmar player invest an equal amount of money that the Imladris player did in his outpost, but he's wasted all that money, whereas this outpost has become a lot more stronger, and obviously it's not wasted because it still exists, whereas the Angmar outpost is just no longer exists, so it's completely wasted. So it looks like he's actually got this outpost, this build plot here that's not occupied. So I don't know what he's really thinking here. I mean, if it was me, I'd be occupying it, especially now that he's gone for an outpost and he's occupied all these buildings and he's gone for a siege works. I mean, the only reason why I would leave this empty would be to go for a siege works, because he's already got his troop chamber and he's already got his cavalry producing building out. So really, why leave this empty? I would invest in some author halls to try and reduce my recharge time. So really, that is an example of there's no reason to keep this empty now. You need to fill it, and the longer you leave it unfilled, the worse it becomes for you, because you're just wasting that opportunity to be producing more money. Whereas your enemy here, Angmar, hasn't done that. He's got all of the buildings filled, so his base is saturated, apart from upgrading to level 2 resource production, which he is doing now. So that's exactly what the Angmar player should be doing, really, in this situation. Is starting to saturate his inside base, because he's lost a lot of control over the map. And my mouse is bugged out, and that's quite annoying, because it does often do that. And do you guys know what that is? I mean, I have no idea what it is. I don't know if that's going to come up on the recordings. I assume it will. But, yes. It's gone back to normal. So that's good. I don't know what that is. Every so often it does that. Now let's have a quick look at the map. So, thanks to the cavalry and thanks to the infantry advantage he had with his troops, really he's managed to grab the entire map. Angmar only has this one outside farm. He's got nothing else. The rest of the map is in control of Imladris. So really, Imladris' economy is vastly superior, despite the fact that he's not taken this outpost and he's not been upgrading. Oh, having said that, he has been upgrading. He's slowly upgrading them now. His inside buildings. So yes, Angmar has all these fully upgraded inside buildings now, but it's irrelevant because I think if you double the resource production, if you get these 2 additional workers, you get 48. As indeed you do. You see there 48. That's double 24, if you didn't know. Pro math tips there from Goodfella. 24 times 2 equals 48. Yes, so that is equivalent to 2 resource buildings. But because Imladris has the entire map, he's got way more than that anyway, just in these ultra cheap outside farms. And really, this is the situation where having map control is so good, because you've got such a huge advantage in your infantry over your enemy. Really, how is the Angmar player here going to be able to take the map control back? So it's looking terrible for the Angmar player. And look at his command points as well, 750. Let's look at Imladris' command points, 1020 of a possible 1500. Here you see, once again, going back to the Angmar player, he's actually command point limited here. He needs to get more command points out to get more troops out. But he also needs upgrades, as we see here. And the Imladris player has already got upgrades. Now, upgrades on Imladris troops will be better than upgrades on Angmar troops, because the Imladris troops have better base stats. So really, it's looking like it's starting to spiral out of control here. So he's got more units than the Angmar player. He can keep up his spam of units because he's got more available command points. He's also got way more money to upgrade his units, which most of them are upgraded already. So really, it's looking terrible for the Angmar player. And whereas before, when he didn't rush for that outpost, it seemed as if it was a bit debatable who was winning. I would say Imladris had the upper hand in that situation still. But it wasn't as terrible a position as it is now, because he did have Arwen out of that position. So that was a huge advantage. But of course, heroes aren't that secure if your hero micro isn't that great. And is he going to go for another outpost? He's not. I mean, I wouldn't go for another outpost in this position. You could go for one. It would make your position that little bit more secure. But really, do you need it to be any more secure than it is? To me, I'm completely winning in this position as Imladris. I would just start spamming out catapults and start sieging and just start crushing my enemy. Because really, there is no way back for him. Now, that might be considered a little bit more risky than going for an outpost, upgrading all your economy buildings, saturating your inside farms. I mean, even I in this position would build an author hall here. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yes, it's a lot more secure to make your position a lot more concrete. But really, at this point, I wouldn't do it. There's really no point. You're already winning. You may as well end the match now. And indeed, that looks like what the Imladris player is going to do. So it's been a very nice game, actually. There's a nice bit of economy play, a nice bit of micro-management. And unfortunately for the Angmar player, he's losing terribly now. And he lost his Drauglin way too much, for my liking. Let's see how much damage that power does to Siege. Almost nothing, although Drauglin does a little bit of damage himself. But it looks like Drauglin, having said he's gone down a lot in this match, he goes down again. And actually, Gildor got a level up from that. So Gildor must have got the last laugh in that little Gildor Drauglin duel. He must have killed him with his arrow there. So yes, and oh dear, catapults versus catapults. It looks like it might descend into a catapult battle once again. But that's no surprise, seems though the siege is continuing. And it looks like he's hitting the wall here instead of hitting the gate. And indeed, you can't hit the gate when it's open like this. But look at this. That's the advantage of having siege inside the building. But now the wall is down, he'll be able to... Oh my goodness, the collapsing wall destroyed the catapult there. I had no idea that was a feature of the game. So, there you go. You learn something new every day. What's he doing here? Don't charge in. That was good. He pressed S there and stopped his units before they charged into the pikes. So it seems this player, Geeraz, has got actually very good micro management. Now, we said he's a new player, and I believe he's a cousin of Sikiev, someone that I featured in another game, unless I've just got that completely wrong, and I'm thinking of someone else entirely. And I believe Sikiev said to me that this player plays a lot of League of Legends. So obviously the micromanagement in League of Legends is a lot more prominent than it is in RTS games. So that is probably why he's got such good micromanagement. And I would assume his hero micromanagement in particular is very good. So yes, it looks like really it's all over now. It's just completely all over for the Angmar player. Helagwin is going to go down, I'm sure. And actually, you could mount Arwen in this position and go over and attack her. I really should not be able to escape from that. She's going to die anyway. I mean, you could use the speed boost of the units, or you could use your cavalry to do that as well. And down goes Karsh, the best tank, or not maybe the best tank hero, but the best hero at tanking, if you get that little minor distinction there. It's so hard to kill him, basically, is what I'm saying. Maybe Boromir is a better hero because of his abilities, but in terms of pure tankiness, Karsh is one of the best tank heroes. That being said, he's died because of the just vastly overwhelming forces. And that's it, GG. There's no coming back from this position now. And that's exactly the point that I was making. Yes, he could have spent another 10 minutes making his position more concrete. But really, if you can kill your enemy, as he has done here, and as he's proved was possible, really you may as well just get the game over with. And there in comes the army of the Last Alliance. So it shows how many units he's been killing and how many power points he's been getting. So a very nice game. A game where he could have so easily lost, especially after he lost all those units against the Orc Summon. But he managed to pull it back and he managed to win. So there was a prime example of my economy system not working well. That economy system being going for a barrack start and going for the outside farms in favour of the inside farms. That lost in this situation to the inside building economy system. However, I don't think that the Angmar player used it as it should be used in that situation. And that is being super aggressive. If you're going to go for that strategy, you have to be super aggressive. You have to get as many outside farms as you can. And you have to destroy as many outside farms of your enemies as you can. Otherwise, that inside eco advantage that he had in the early game is just going to build and build and build unless you really start to be super aggressive and try and counter it in that way. It's also a good example of outpost play where a potentially risky outpost paid off for the Imladris player and a completely ridiculous outpost from the Angmar player, kind of a desperate outpost grab to try and make sure that they didn't lose map control. It turned out to be a terrible mistake because it was lost despite the fact that the towers are so good. So a very nice game. Thank you to Geeraz for sending it to me. I hope you're all glad I'm back after that little break. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, which will be a lot shorter than 4 days. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.